In the world of One Piece, Shanks' plans and whereabouts remain one of the greatest mysteries yet to be revealed. For example, how does Loki know what Shanks is doing and where he currently is? We know that Shanks has said he wants to claim the One Piece, which to me translates to Shanks wanting to protect and defend the One Piece. Because if we look at the lore of One Piece, it's not unlikely that Joy Boy is needed for whatever lies dormant on Laugh Tale. Shanks has always acted as the gatekeeper, the one who maintained balance. So now let's take a closer look at Shanks' plan. What can we expect? And so on. And if you don't want to miss anything about One Piece, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel and give a thumbs up. Enjoy the video. When it comes to Shanks, one question has always bothered me. How does Loki know where Shanks is, what he's doing, and why is Loki even in a position to withhold that information from Luffy? Because normally, Loki has been chained down below for years, and Shanks defeated him. Shanks was the one responsible for that. And this seems to contradict itself, because that would mean Shanks visited Loki and told him what he plans to do next. And if Shanks does something like that, then it clearly carries great significance. Namely, what we suspected from the beginning, Loki will be absolutely crucial to the endgame of One Piece. I mean, Big Mom had her eyes on the Elbaf giants for her alliance, and now the world government is there, the Holy Knights are there, and they want the giants on their side for the endgame. The giants, especially Loki, likely because of his devil fruit, will be absolutely key when things go completely chaotic in the final war. The question is, of course, to what extent is Loki aligned with Shanks? I can easily imagine that Loki wouldn't be too thrilled about having been chained up for 6 years. But we know this whole situation is more deeply entangled, namely, the story involving King Harold. And with the background knowledge that the Holy Knights played a major role in that plot back then, it might not be so surprising why things currently seem so murky. Naturally, we need a flashback regarding Loki, especially about the story with King Harold, because Loki himself said that he didn't go along with everything as willingly as it's been portrayed. And that was something we've suspected all along, that it's not so simple, and that other people had their hands in this. I believe Loki is the kind of person who just wouldn't be able to sit still in such a situation. He'd probably want to storm out and act immediately. But Shanks wanted or still wants to prevent that, waiting for the right moment. We know Shanks has said he wants to find the One Piece, and I think by now, we all understand that Shanks, by nature, is someone who appears as the gatekeeper, the one who maintains balance and waits for a specific moment. And that moment can only be the arrival of Joy Boy. We suspect that on Laugh Tale lies the long-awaited infinite energy source that Joy Boy hid there, one that, in combination with Luffy's devil fruit, might bring an end to this long-standing night and the reign of the current world government and the celestial dragons. When we look at Shanks' character and take him as we've come to know him so far, then one thing becomes clear. It doesn't necessarily make sense for Shanks to want to become Pirate King or seek fame. Shanks is more of a humble person who simply enjoys freedom. So the real question is, what does he actually want with the One Piece? I can only imagine that he might want to protect the One Piece until the right person appears. After all, Shanks doesn't need a road poneglyph. He probably doesn't even need a guide, because I can very well imagine that by now, he already knows pretty much everything. I mean, Scopper Gaban is on Elbaf. And even if Shanks wasn't on Laugh Tale during the Roger era, I can imagine that over all these years he's learned a great deal about the moral of the story and everything that comes with it. And Scopper Gaban, who's also been on Elbaf for a long time, knows it all. So I can easily imagine that they've forged a plan together, waiting for the right one to arrive. And that right one is, of course, Luffy aka Joy Boy, who may be the only one truly capable of using the One Piece. We know Roger was too early, and there are various theories as to why. One reason was Shirahoshi, but another likely reason was the absence of Joy Boy. And Shanks, for all these past years, was also too early. So why now, all of a sudden? There's really only one factor: Luffy's awakening. The time has finally come, and Shanks is probably now setting out to protect the One Piece. So the question is, from whom, or from what, does Shanks need to protect it? There are multiple possibilities, multiple candidates, and above all, multiple locations. For example, the 4 islands that are connected to the road poneglyphs are absolutely in danger of being completely destroyed. It's not unlikely that the world government already knows about one or more of these islands, because we remember the world government was able to trace Roger's life backwards. And after learning that Roger was going to have a child, they executed all the women who were pregnant at that time. That means, for them, it might not have been too difficult to locate the islands that eventually lead to the One Piece, or to Laugh Tale. These islands are clearly in danger, and we know that Emu possesses a weapon capable of wiping out entire islands. Beyond locations, there are also individuals that Shanks definitely needs to be wary of. The biggest threat, of course, remains Blackbeard. We still don't know how much Blackbeard actually knows, but we do know he's gathered bits of information, especially after his fight with Trafalgar Law. And we also don't know how deeply Blackbeard is connected to the legacy of Xebec, or how much he's already learned from it. Blackbeard probably knows things we don't, just as Xebec once understood the secrets of the world. It would be a massive shortcut if Blackbeard had access to some source of information, perhaps a relic left behind by Xebec, that revealed the locations of the 4 islands connected to the road poneglyphs. All he'd need to do is mark those 4 islands on a map, and the intersection point of those locations would lead directly to the One Piece. That kind of information would be a huge shortcut for someone like Blackbeard. And Blackbeard isn't the type to put in hard work, especially since he doesn't have anyone on his crew who can read the poneglyphs. Sure, he's kidnapped Pudding, but I think Pudding is both. First, unreliable. There's no guarantee her powers will even work. And second, someone who wouldn't want to help Blackbeard anyway. I actually believe Pudding would rather die than help him, which brings us to a dangerous possibility. Shanks might have to stop Blackbeard, because the battle between Shanks and Blackbeard has been building up for decades now. And in the end, it will of course lead to a confrontation between Shanks and Blackbeard. Whether Shanks will defeat Blackbeard or not remains uncertain. Personally, I believe Blackbeard is meant to be the pirate antagonist for Luffy. Luffy has to be the one to defeat Blackbeard, maybe even on Laugh Tale itself. But Shanks has a very clear mission: protecting the One Piece. That comes with an enormous burden, and he's someone who can definitely bear that weight. So point by point, it's clear that Oda has a big plan for Shanks, and Shanks knows exactly how to execute it. Which means, folks, we can look forward to a major shift in focus towards Shanks at some point, one that won't just be a couple of panels, but potentially a whole series of chapters. Despite all the hype around him, we actually know very little about Shanks, aside from the fact that he's extremely strong, a celestial dragon by blood, and was raised by Roger, but his character development could be explored beautifully through a flashback or even an entire arc focused on him. That means it's very possible that we'll soon see several chapters following Shanks on his journey, what he's planning, and how he intends to reach Laugh Tale. And that brings us back to what I mentioned earlier. Shanks doesn't have anyone who can read the poneglyphs, at least, not as of now, which ultimately means one thing: he probably already knows where Laugh Tale is. Even if he wasn't there during the Roger era, he most likely knows about the 4 islands. He's using that information now to make his move and hopefully achieve something major. I'm definitely super excited and hyped to see when this big Shanks twist will happen, and of course the plot Oda has prepared for him. Depending on how Oda plays it, we might not even get to see Shanks return to Elbaf, meaning the meeting between Shanks and Luffy might be delayed once again, yet again postponed. But of course it all depends on the circumstances. Personally, I think Shanks has seen that Luffy is either already on Elbaf or on his way there. He had sent the giants to Egghead Island to support Luffy and company, because he knows that Joy Boy has finally awakened. So Shanks continues on his own path, taking the next step to maintain his role as the gatekeeper of this plot. I'm really curious who his next opponent might be. Will it be the world government? Or Blackbeard himself? We'll know for sure once Oda finally decides to shift the spotlight. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens around the time the story reaches Elbaf, but until then, we'll have to be patient. So what do you think? What's the big theme or hidden plot behind Shanks? Because the idea that he simply wants the One Piece for himself, that he's acting selfishly to gain power, that's all a bit utopian. That's just not who Shanks is. There's clearly a bigger plan at work here. Feel free to share your theories in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, it really helps out. If you haven't subscribed yet and don't want to miss any One Piece news, spoilers or updates, make sure to subscribe. It's free and painless. Thanks for tuning in. I wish you an exciting day. We'll hear from each other again soon. The spoilers are coming shortly. Take care until next time.